My first birthday memory is one of simchat mimah, or what the rabbis call complete joy. Rabbinic Midrash teaches us, on the day of your friend's success, participate in their joy. Taking necessary time and energy to celebrate the accomplishments of members of a community is a mitzvah. And so from birthdays, we can learn the importance of taking time to be joyful. Hayom Harat Olam, on the days we reflect on our lives. The Talmud teaches us, everyone is responsible to be as great as Moses. But then, the Torah tells us in its last chapter, Deuteronomy 34, that no one will ever be as great as Moses. How can we be responsible to be as great as Moses if no one will ever be as great as Moses? An 18th century Hasidic tale can help us understand this debate. Reb Zushia was on his deathbed, surrounded by his disciples. A great fear gripped Reb Zushia, and he began to cry out. His disciples asked him, Reb Zushia, what worries you? Surely you will be welcomed into the gates of heaven, for you have been as righteous as Moses. Reb Zushia sighed, my children, I'm not worried that God will ask of me, Zushia, why weren't you more like Moses? Because I'm not Moses. Nobody is. I'm worried, however, that God will ask, Zushia, why were you not more like Zushia? Life is not a competition against anyone really but yourself. We're expected to discover our mission, to know whom we serve, to know what we value, to understand our goals, and to develop a plan to embark upon our own journeys. From our final days, we critically reflect on our lives and better attune ourselves to our goals and our passions. Hayom Harat Olam, on the days we are reminded of the world around us. She witnessed the boy laughing at her, as if she is too old to bear a child. Angrily, she approached her husband. Garash ha'ama hazot ve'et b'na, expel this peasant woman and her son from our family, for they are not like us, and they do not deserve our inheritance. On the first day of Rosh Hashanah, the traditional Torah portion retells the story of Abraham's second wife and first son, Hagar and Ishmael, exiled from Abraham's family to the barren, dry desert of southern Israel. After wandering in the wilderness, lacking food and water, Hagar laid Ishmael beneath a tree. She cried out to God, let me not see this child die. Vaishalcheha, coming from the same Hebrew root as tashlich, meaning to cast off, which we will do tomorrow, Hagar performs her own tashlich. Not only are we reminded of casting off our misdeeds from the past year, but we are also reminded and we learn of the scarcity of resources in our natural world. From our Torah, we are charged with protecting the land on which we dwell, as it has been passed down, lador vador, from generation to generation, and it is up to us to maintain the beauty of our natural planet. Hayom Harat Olam, on the days we are tested. Just 2 weeks ago, on August 25th, we lit the Havdalah candle together as a community with Temple Or Chadash. That same evening, we learned that former United States Senator John McCain passed away. Mourners over the past 2 weeks have spoken to the depths of his torment and the depths of his courage in Vietnam, when, as Barack Obama eulogized day after day, year after year, his youthful iron was tempered into steel. He continues, it brings to mind something that Hemingway wrote. Today is only one day in all the days that will ever be. But what will happen in all other days can come to depend on what happens on this day. These words can teach us that each moment, each day, each choice is a test. Just as Elohim nisa et Abraham, just as God tested Abraham to sacrifice his son thousands of years ago, we are tested too. From the narratives of those before us, we are tested and tasked with bravery, honesty, and humility. Hayom harat olam, on the days we speak to one another. Nearly 6 months ago, I turned 26 years old. That day, my mother and I were discussing the day I was born. So I reminded her how neat it was that on the day that I was born, Hayom Harat Olam, on the day that I was born, the hospital was recording a commercial which needed a really cute newborn baby. And so they took one look at me, and they found their cute newborn baby, and I was featured in that commercial. And so my mom then responded, "Nice try, that was your younger brother." In all seriousness, from engaging in face-to-face conversations, we develop relationships in a way that allow us to tell one another stories in a way that's truthful, in a way where we can ensure the sanctity and the truth of conversations, and we can pass down traditions as we have inherited them. From these stories, we're not just taught the importance of rejoicing, reflection, conservation, bravery, and truth. Each one of these motifs are compelling. However, we remember that Hayom Harat Olam is translated as this day that the world was created. It can also be translated as each day, today the world created what? Each day the world created what? Moments from which we can rejoice. Moments upon which we can reflect. Moments that challenge us to conserve. Moments that ask us to stand up. Moments that request of us the truth. So as we begin our new year of 5779, I challenge each of us to think about these moments. I challenge each of us to think about, on this day, the world created what? I challenge us to develop conscious rituals that can lead each day, Hayom Harat Olam, to be a special day, a day of meaning and weight. Whether it's a daily practice of connecting with someone you care about, calling someone for whom you are grateful, or spending 15 minutes outside to acknowledge the stunning geography around us. Each day can provide us with meaning. Hayom Harat Olam, may we develop new daily rituals. May we seek opportunities to make our lives more fulfilling. And may we see every single day as a new chance to become the people we want to be, recognizing that each day is a blessing, and we are here to reap those blessings together. Shana Tova U'Metuka. May it be a good and sweet year. I'd like to now take the time to call up those who have a birthday in the community during the month of September. Or anniversary. Birthdays or anniversaries. So that's, I can read from a list too. Judy Seville and David Rardin, his anniversary, which is today, I believe. Ben Reisfeld, Douglas Salmon, Mary Gray, Nathan Blatt, Nora Basker, Rachel Cassidy, Rick Gravish, Cheryl Marty. Come on up. If you guys have a birthday or anniversary, please come on up. Jeff Baker, Lana Olson, Linda Yaskowitz, Sherry Gardner, and Natalie Fitz.
You had to remind me.
And if there are other birthdays or anniversaries in the audience, please come on up. In the congregation, please come on up.
No, I'm a Libra.
Mom and Dad, please come on up. Birthdays and anniversaries are very, very special. So I want to take this time to acknowledge that it only happens once a year. It really is a Hayom Harat Olam moment. So I want to say, Misha Berach Lavotenu Ligmotenu Hu Yivarech Et Abraham Yitzchak V'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Hu Yivarech Otzcham. May the one who blessed our ancestors continue to bless you, who stand here today, who have, again, made it around the sun one more time, either as one whole human or together on anniversary. And let us all say, Amen. Amen. Thank you. Are there any announcements? Okay.
I'm going. I used to be able to spring over here.
So for those who don't know me, I'm Brooke Freeman. I have the honor of being the president of Temple Or Hadash for one more year. My board is making me do this. So I have a little speech tonight. I promise this is the only one that has any length. The others will be short and sweet, just asking for money. So bear with me tonight. And this is my last High Holy Days as president, so it's a little bit bittersweet. So I want to tell you a story about two congregations and two High Holy Days. These are my experiences, and I apologize if you know them already. Most of you I've told this story to. And I'm sure that almost every one of you could stand up here in this place and tell the exact same story. But let me begin. I had the privilege of growing up in what I would dare say is one of the largest URJ congregations in the country. My mom and Leah can correct me if I'm wrong, but probably pretty close. I went to religious school on Sunday, Hebrew school on Wednesday, each divided out by grade. That's how many kids there were. They have a preschool. Now they have a Jewish day school. My parents paid thousands and thousands of dollars for the privilege of belonging to this congregation. If you needed relief from the dues amount, there was a review procedure that you went through, paperwork to submit to see if you could be relieved from some of that. I remember that on High Holy Days we would eat dinner at my parents' house, usually with the Sherlings and the Millers, who were like extended family to me. And in fact, 19 years ago tomorrow, on Erev Rosh Hashanah 1999, my husband proposed to me and joined us for Rosh Hashanah service. After dinner, we would take our tickets, and we would all make the 15-minute drive to the synagogue. A synagogue that, while we had been eating dinner, had been searched by bomb-sniffing dogs and police. We would park and walk in with the thousands of members that were there to celebrate High Holy Days. Thousands, and that's not an exaggeration. We would walk in and take a prayer book from someone who had graciously volunteered, but whom I did not know or recognize, and we entered the main sanctuary. So let me set the scene for you. The sanctuary is a large circle filled with hundreds, maybe 1,000, prickly gray velvet chairs. You know the velvet I'm talking about. There is actual gold and turquoise stones in the masonry that makes up the building so that it actually sparkles when the light shines. There are 3-story tall pillar-like stained glass windows every few feet. At the front is an ark that rises 3 stories in height and contains at least 6, but it could be 8, I can't remember, Torahs. And when you open the doors to this ark, I remember them being so heavy, you have to pull them open and they bounce and thud when they hit their ends. Each of the Torahs is covered in silver and bells so that they tinkle and chime when you move them. In the back of the sanctuary, the back doors would be open into Tobian Auditorium, the activities hall for this congregation, and hundreds, if not more, chairs were there and filled that area. If you didn't get there early enough or you didn't have tickets, you went to the smaller chapel, Lefkowitz, or one of the other rooms in the synagogue, and you could watch services live on a big screen TV. My understanding is that they recently did a multi-million-dollar renovation and built an even more incredible and more beautiful sanctuary and building. The choir and the organ were up above in a balcony, and they would begin to play. The rabbis, at that point there were 3, I believe there's 7 now, would make the processional up to the bima. They would climb the stairs, because this bima was like a big semicircular carpeted stage. I remember as a kid we would run in the sanctuary. You couldn't even reach the top of the bima. That's how high this was. They would climb up, and they would go sit down in a throne-like chair. And I'm talking Game of Thrones without the swords. It may not be actually that big, but as a child, that's how it seemed, these huge backs. The choir would finally stop, and the rabbis would gaze out among the thousands of people that were there, and one would lurch out of the chair and walk up to the huge lectern and start services. Now, we were pretty lucky. We had some incredible rabbis, and I was honored to get to hear some sermons from some of the very best. You never left without feeling inspired, like you were about to go forth and change the world. It was simply awe-inspiring, and that's the word I would use, awe-inspiring. Now fast forward about 7 years ago, I was living in Greeley with 3 young children. We had moved several times, and honestly, we had tried to join synagogues before. But one, you had to drive an hour to St. Louis, the other, you had to drive an hour that way. Each time I was welcomed and then told what the dues would be. Now, we were a family of 5, and the burden of dues fell to me as my husband is not Jewish. And these dues ranged in the thousands, and it was a huge barrier for us. I wasn't feeling as welcome. I kind of felt like they just wanted my dues, and in the end, we never really did join. But that year, I felt a need to attend Rosh Hashanah services. I'm not sure how I found Or Hadash, especially since I live in Greeley, or how I navigated my way to the senior center, because those who know me know I am severely directionally challenged. But I made it, and in those days, we still had services in the other room down the hall. I walked in, there were no tickets, there were no fees, there were no reservations, and it wasn't very crowded, so it must have been a weekday morning. But there were a fair number of people, and the chairs were all set up. The service was a service. I got to say, it was fairly typical. We used Gates of Repentance, and let's be honest, not the most inspiring book. Rabbi Ted led, and I felt like I was a good Jew for attending. After services, there was an oneg, and you guys will be shocked, but it was a single table. I think there was some chocolate, some muffins, and some fruit. It was pretty small. But the sun was shining bright, and it was a beautiful day, so they opened those doors out onto the patio. And as I walked out, Renee and Leah came over and descended upon me. That's the word I'm going to use, descended. And there were probably others, and I apologize if I don't remember, but those are the 2 that stuck with me. They stayed with me the entire oneg, chatting and laughing, and they didn't even know I had kids yet. They weren't checking me out as a stranger to find out why I was there. They were doing what I now know is the Or Hadash way. They were being warm and welcoming. I was blown away. I felt special. I felt important. I felt seen. Then they found out I had kids, and they said, bring them on Sunday. Just see what it's like. Don't worry about dues or joining. Just come, see what we're all about. So I did. And I stayed for the chat. And I wrote Marty, because yes, even at that time, he was still treasurer. I wrote him a check right then and there, and I joined. And if I had a choice, and God picked up that other congregation and put it right next door to my house, and I was a multi-zillionaire and dues were no problem, I would choose Or Hadash every single time. You see, it isn't the building or the money or the special effects or the number of Torahs or the prestige that make a congregation legitimate. It's the people. It's the people that make Or Hadash so special. That is what makes us legitimate. That is what makes us Jewish. It's what sets us apart and why I love Or Hadash so much. We truly are family in a way I don't think that other congregation can ever be. My husband and kids often say that they can't wait for my term as president to be over, and on certain days, I say the same thing. But honestly, I'm not sure how I will feel when that day comes. I serve Or Hadash because I truly love it. It is my heart. You are my family. And it is my honor and privilege to do something that helps keep Or Hadash here for each of us. But being a small congregation has one drawback. Unlike the large congregation where they have millions of dollars in dues, thousands of members to tap, not always voluntarily, for donations and volunteer time, each being able to give just to the cause that speaks to them or just to the activity they want to participate in, we don't have that luxury. We have a limited number of places to go. And unfortunately, money is an essential part of keeping a congregation running. The building, the rooms, the food, the Torah, the insurance, it all takes money. We have an exceptionally low dues level, and we never let dues be a barrier to membership. We are so flexible, there is no litmus test. We want everyone to be a member. But that means that more than half of the money that is required to keep Or Hadash open comes from donations. And nothing that happens here is done by paid staff, be it serving on the board, setting up ONEG, setting up services, running events, transferring out prayer books, scheduling chats, answering the phone. It's all volunteers, and I cannot thank each and every one of you that has done anything at all this year that helps keep Or Hadash open and running. Because big or small, every moment is important. So I'm here doing what I absolutely hate to do, but what we have to do if we want Or Hadash to function. I'm asking you to make a donation to Or Hadash. That donation could be in the form of financial support. Of course, that is always needed. But that donation could also be volunteering to serve on the board, hosting an ONEG, setting up for chat, or finding a speaker. There are so many ways to honor Or Hadash, and when you give to this family, I promise you receive so much more in return. This year we have two types of donations. One is our general fund, to which donations are absolutely critical. We depend on those to keep Or Hadash running. We also have a new project this year. We're looking to purchase a Torah, and we are raising funds for that as well. As we enter the new year, you have my gratitude for everything that you have donated, time and financially, during the past year. I am often the one that gets the credit, but it takes a village to make Or Hadash work, and you are that village. And I ask you to continue to support Or Hadash in the upcoming years so that it truly can continue to be a light of Jewish life in northern Colorado. Okay, so that's my speech for money, so please don't wait. Okay, now for the announcements. Sorry, and none of them, the rest of the high holidays will be that long, I promise. Carol Tuttle, I want to thank you. There is an ONEG afterwards, and I know it is a massive beast to set up, and you do it every year, and you do it graciously, and Pat too, along with helpers, but it's a big deal, and thank you for doing that for us. I want to thank Scott's family for donating him to us for the year. Without him. And I know it's hard not to have him home for the holidays and things like that, but we really appreciate that he's here with us, so thank you guys very much.
And they're welcome anytime.
And you're always welcome. We love him. I also want to thank Lenny and Jane Abels and Mike and Pat Harris. The shofar that we have now belongs to Temple Or Hadash, and that was donated by them. So as I said, after services tonight, stunning. And Alana for playing it so beautifully. We'll get to hear lots of it. Afterwards, we're going to have an ONEG. Tomorrow morning, we'll have services here from 10 to 12. There's a children's service that'll be in the ONEG room 10:15-ish for about 30 minutes, and then you guys are welcome to come back in. And there'll be a small ONEG after that. Then we have Tashlich at Spring Park. That's the one where the fire station, it's Remington and College, that area, and the parking's right there this year. It's right by where the little shelter is. It's around 1:30 when everybody gets there. We have birdseed to scatter. Yeah, it'll be just a short little service. There's a playground, there's a picnic area. If you would like to bring food for your family to picnic and have lunch out there or something to share, you're welcome to, but it's not a potluck. You don't have to bring something for everybody. Then Tuesday, September 18th, we have Kol Nidre here from 7 to 9, and again, we'll have the pianist and the string instruments to play Kol Nidre. September 19th is Yom Kippur, and we have the schedule on the website, and there'll be a children's service that day too. Break the fast will be around 6-ish that night. Please be sure that you have RSVP'd to Pat so that she